Fiore EX release was much sooner than I expected. In JP, she was released after Erika and Adone, and we still don't have those two yet in the end. Not to mention that for this Hemi Cup, Lavina is also an option too, but there's no Lavina here. Fiore EX is a dodge tank, and also damage and debuffing. The new Linde is an upgrade of the old one. The old Linde used to be just a single hit or AoE hit depending on the enemy, but now it's just an AoE that also hit the other weakness. It also can now inflict defense down and magic defense down, which can stack with other Fiore EX debuff. Foggy Frolic is a 4-hit AoE move. The charm is a nice bonus, but the main utility of this is that it's 100 only multi-hit, well, the best multi-hit that she has. Phoenix Prance is a one-hit AoE that debuffs everything, including critical down, which I still don't know what it does exactly. I guess the chance of the enemy hitting a crit on you is less, but if anything, it's just a nice extra icon for some character to count. And last is a taunt, which is nice because it also inflicts AoE attack down and magic down, which can also stack with 100 other debuffs, so she can cap out the 30% attack down and magic down by herself. The first passive is nice because let Fiore EX always to be the one that always inflict debuff first, and also the one that inflicts shield breaking first, it would help too. And also the one that when the start of battle, you always want to be the one to taunt first, so Fiore EX have that too. Although this passive does have a downside though, is that if Fiore is not the shield breaker and rather someone else, then this passive is a bit, on the turn that you break the enemy, then Fiore will hit the enemy when they still have shield. So sometimes you have to disable the passive. The second passive is 50% chance to dodge most attack, which most attack means most normal attack, and the one exception are the special attack like the explosion overkill when you reach the time limit, stuff like that. Is 50-50, but is consistent enough for her to dodge half of the attack half of the time. I hope I say that right. So she is a good dodge tank. And last is an ultimate that can also inflict debuff. Later on when Signa will get released for EN, you can use her ultimate and Fiore ultimate together, so you can potentially stack together a total of 5 turns of 30% 4-stat down. Since Fiore is also a DPS, A1 is more preferred than O10, but if you don't really care about Fiore DPS, then you can prioritize go for O10 before A1. Now, one weakness that Fiore do have though is that most of her skill costs a lot of SP. So if Fiore want to stay in the front line and continue to be the tank and doing other stuff like the 4-hit Van or inflicting debuff, then you need some sort of SP generation for her. I would say you can use an SP fan too, but Fiore also want more HP on her fortune weapon because sometimes tanking can be inconsistent, so you want as much health as possible so your Fiore don't just randomly die to unluckiness. Which is also the second weakness of her. Her dodging is inconsistent. Sometimes you dodge everything, sometimes you dodge nothing. Most of the time it's 50-50, but it can be inconsistent and sometimes require a few resets for it to work. And last is there's too many weapon choice for her. So Fiore has many roles. You can use her as a tank and you can use her as a DPS or both even. But the weapon choice can be hard to pick. So for example, if you just want her to be a full tank, then you can just put HP Soul on her fortune weapon. If you want her to be a full DPS, then you will also use a fortune weapon to put all the attacks on her. But there's also a tiny problem with that. Fiore's strongest move is very strong. It's a guaranteed crit with a power multiplier 260 nuke. So it's extremely easy for her to hit the damage cap with that. And you would also want her to have more damage cap if you use her as a DPS. You can use a Hell or Heaven weapon to increase the damage cap for Fiore. But the problem for that is that Fan weapon normally doesn't have a lot of attack. Most of the stat on a normal fan weapon go to focus on magic instead. So Fiore will lose a lot of attack if she switched to a weapon like that. Right now in EN, Fiore is the best fan DPS in the game. Turn out having a critical multiplier and also a power multiplier attached to your strongest move does make you very strong. In JP, she is still a strong fan DPS, except there are just other better options than her now, like Agnia and Magadi. Although she is still very strong though, if you want a tank that can also inflict a lot of debuff, you will still pick Hunter EX, so Hunter is still good in JP. So between Hunter EX and Fiore EX, both can deal fan damage, but I'll be mainly comparing the tanking part. Fiore EX tanking is much better than Hunter EX tanking is, and the one bonus it has for it is that it's a cover, not a taunt. So if an enemy cannot be taunt like Gertrude, Fiore EX still work, while Hunter EX cannot work. But other than the absolute defense that Fiore EX have, the other utility she has is just inflicting 20% defense down. Hunter EX, on the other hand, the taunting and the tanking might not be as strong as Fiore EX, but she can do much more than her. So after Hunter EX taunt the enemy, she can do other stuff while also dodging most of the attack, like doing the forehead fan, inflicting debuff, inflicting other debuff, or just doing some damage. While Fiore EX, you have to spam the counter move every single turn. So in summary, between these two dodge tank, if you want just absolute defense, then Fiore EX is better. If you do not need the absolute defense of Fiore EX, then Hunter EX is better because she provides much more utility than Fiore EX. So in conclusion, we are currently at the time where there will be a bunch of limited unit release from now on. Characters like Solon, Erika, Harane, Sazando, Signa, a lot of them will be released eventually, so I still think that Hunter EX is good, but not good enough to the point where you would pull for her. But because Hunter EX is a Gen Pro unit, you can wait until the anniversary for EN arrive again, so you can pick it for free. But there's also other good Gen Pro unit this year too, like Prim EX and also Ogan in the future. So if I were to put a priority on the selector, if you do not have Primrose EX, then get Primrose EX. But if you have it already, then Hunter EX will be the second best Gen Pro unit to get right now.